Hey everyone. Well, I was able to get the metal tubing that I ordered so I can build the temporary frame. So on this episode, I'm going to go ahead and get all of that cleaned up, deburred, and start tacking it all together and get the cabs squared on top of it so I can start cutting the rest of the floors out and start fitting the doors and moving forward. So here we go. So I bought 2x2 by 120 wall box tube. I bought two 20-foot lengths of it. I went ahead and pre-cut most of it at my work. So now what I think I'm going to do, I'm just going to build a simple rectangle to be 8 feet long, 67 inches wide, which is roughly the dimension of the pinch weld on the bottom of the cab where the factory rocker panels are welded together. So my plan is for now to get the cabs up on that rectangle box or frame and actually tack weld the cab to it so that the cabs can't move. So then I can start fitting or building new rocker panels, new upper door channels, and then start fitting the doors now that I know the cabs can't physically move. All my dimensions will stay exactly where they are, and I can go ahead and cut the rest of the floor out as well. Okay, so here's what I'm doing with the frame. So I'm just gonna have 3 cross pieces, 8 feet long, 67 inches wide. So what I like to do is just take some strap pieces, clamp on both sides that holds both tubes level with each other, and then just take a square, make sure the corners are square. I'm just going to tack weld 4 tacks on each corner to hold this thing together, which is more than sufficient. I don't want to fully weld it because I'm going to wind up cutting all this back apart once the cabs are welded together, because I won't need it anymore, so I can use it for other stuff. And then what I'm going to do is I'll either tack weld it to my scissor lift or just clamp it, one of the two. That way I can raise and lower the cabs as needed. But then the cabs will sit on this frame, and I'll tack weld the cabs to it so that way they can't physically move. Okay, so you can see what I did here. These tubes are even with the pinch weld, which is where the outer rocker skin meets the inner rocker. So this is a factory pinch weld. Pretty much strongest point of the cab really on the floor on the bottom side. So the pinch weld overlaps this tube on both sides and fits pretty snug. So this is gonna help hold the cabs where I want it. I'm gonna tack weld the cab or the pinch weld to the frame, so that way the cabs can't physically move. So then once I do that, all of this will get cut out. So kind of basically where the radius ends here and up here. Obviously I'll have to patch this. It's got, you know, a little bit of rot right there. So anyway, I'm gonna cut it where it's level, or where it's, you know, starts to flatten out. And then I'm gonna have a buddy of mine, he's got a bigger bender than I do. I'm gonna have him bend up a rocker, this profile, one piece all the way down. So that way I don't have to have a joint in the middle, a weak point. It'll be all one piece all the way down. And then when I get around to doing the B pillar, I'll tie all this back in and sculpt all this back in on both sides. But that way I have a nice solid, you know, rocker panel, which will hold this whole thing where I want it. And same thing up here. I'm gonna cut it pretty much right at this factory joint here. And same thing back here. There's a factory joint here. So let me see if I can show you. So on these doors, this shape here, this bulge in the door is a lot greater than the back of the door. So that profile on these doors, because the front of the cab pinches in. So if you took a measurement from this point, from here to the other side, and from here to the other side, the cab is actually narrower up here in the front. The doors kind of, they dive in to the front of the truck. The bottom is pretty square. It's just the top is pinched in. So to get both of the rear door and the front door, to get those to line up, because the shape of the door itself is a little funky in the front, I'm gonna fix that with, when I build the inner structure, I'm gonna reshape the front of the door to match the back of the front door, which would be the same profile. So I'll bend up my own skin, door skin, and I'll reskin the rear doors. That way, that profile, when you sight down the truck, that, you know, all the body lines match, everything flows together. It doesn't look like there was two cabs put together. So it looks like, it'll basically look like it was done from the factory that way. So when I get to that point, then we'll address the rest of it. But I may have to move on the front door. This is gonna have to come out. So if you take a straight line from this point back there, this is gonna have to come out just ever so slightly back here to match that back there. So I may have to adjust the front door a little bit when I build all this. I can move the door wherever I want it, and make all the, you know, all the gaps line up that way. So that'll be the next step, is get this thing tacked on the frame. I'll go ahead and I'll cut the floors out, since I won't need those anymore because the cab will be welded together, so it won't move on me. And then it'll give me more room. I can stand up in there and do whatever I need to do. But that'll be the next step. Okay, so now that I got the cabs up on the frame, the temporary frame, I'm gonna
square them up, get them tacked to it so they don't move, and we'll start cutting the floor out and probably start cutting the rockers off so I can get a dimension to make a new one, and then probably start cutting the roof on this one and get the whole back half of it off, so I can start getting the doors. I picked up a set of Suburban, so they're 70, I think they're 71 or 70 Suburban front doors, which are actually squared off in the back instead of radiused, because on a Suburban there's a rear door. So I was able to find a set of them local, which was kind of nice because they're kind of hard to find. So that'll save me a lot of work modifying the front doors to square off the window frame in the back. So I was able to get a set of those. One of the rear doors on, one of the doors on the second cab that I bought, the hinge pockets were rotted out and somebody had welded the hinge directly to the door, which basically makes that door useless. So that's why I was looking for another set of doors. I was going to try to find just one door, but I came across the Suburban doors, so I hopped on it and picked them up this morning. So I'll use those for mock-up. I got to strip them down, get all the door panels and all the bullshit off of them, and we'll start fitting those, and then I can get a dimension for the rear door to kind of set the depth of how wide I want that rear door to wind up being. Right now the doors are roughly about 39 inches, a little over 39 inches. So I want to keep it that length. That way the door stays as wide as I can get it. So we'll see what we come up with.
Okay, so what I did is I just cut a couple blocks out of some scrap that I had. So what I'm gonna do is, these just so happen to fit perfect for height-wise. So I'm just gonna tack weld them to the frame. That way the pinch weld of the cab will sit on those blocks. That'll hold it level because it's drooping in the front right here. So that'll hold it level, and then I can tack the actual cab to these blocks. So that way I know that both cabs are exactly the same distance from the bottom of this box tube up to the top of these. So now I know that they're level with each other and everything should line up at that point. So that's what I'm going to do next. At the back of the cab tacked to it. I'm not going to tack these ones just yet because all of this has to come off, so I don't have to cut around it. So at least now I know that the cabs can't, or the back cab can't move. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and take the rocker panels, the outer rocker panels off, since I don't necessarily need to have them there. They're getting replaced anyway. So it'll just give me a little bit more room to work here. So that's what we'll do next.
So this corner is a little more rotted out than I thought it was. So you can kind of see that, lets a little air into the cab. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to clean all this up, and I'll have to rebuild just this lower part before I can do the rest of the rocker. So I'll just clean it up to where it's not rusting anymore, and then that way I have clean metal to weld to, and I'll just re-sculpt this piece. I'm sure I'm going to do it on the other side as well. These things it's pretty common on these trucks that they rot in this corner because water gets in and sits right here from the door. So it's pretty common on these particular trucks that this is a inherent rust spot. So not a big deal, a little more work. So we'll get this cleaned up, and then we'll go from there.
So these are the Suburban doors that I picked up. They actually came off of a Suburban that caught on fire. So they were a little discolored, but sandblasted them, they'll be just fine. So get these all cleaned up. I still got to do the other one. We'll get these fit on the truck. All right, so that's gonna do it for this one. I'm gonna finish up getting that door cleaned up and get on to the next door, and we'll get them mounted, and we'll move on to the next episode. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and remember, always weld your vision.